Hello students, welcome back to the biology class. So in the last class we continued the 13th chapter, that is the organisms and population, and we discussed the topic of population, the definition of population. We discussed about the age pyramids. We covered the concept of attributes which are common to population and which are absent in the case of the living individual, and we also discussed the various methods of understanding the increase or decrease in the population density. That means direct methods as well as the indirect method. We learned in the last class that population is the total number of interbreeding individuals of the same species which are found in a particular geographical area, and then they share the similar resources and they also compete for the same resources. We learned that the population is made up of similar individuals which are supposed to be surviving in the same area, and they always interbreed sexually. But yes, when we talk about asexually reproducing organisms like vegetative propagation among plants, then lower forms of microorganisms where we find asexual reproduction, in such methods population is considered as a population which is formed because of the vegetative reproduction as well as the asexual. But in the case of the human population, we consider it as the asexually reproducing population. We learned in the last class that whenever the animal has to adapt to the changing environment, it is the individual which changes with the environment, try to use its variation for survival. But when it comes to the natural selection, it is not the individual but the nature works upon the population. This is how slowly the population starts changing some phenotypic features, and these features are because some individuals with a different type of features are rejected and other are selected. So we learned in the last class that it is the population level at which that the natural selection operates to evolve the desired traits in the population, and we learned that population ecology is therefore an important area because it links the ecology to the population genetics as well as it links the ecology to the evolution. We also learned in the last class that there are certain attributes which are present in the population but are absent in the case of the individual. We learned that a population has sex ratio, but when we talk about the individual may be either a male or a female. And in the same manner, population has birth rate. Birth rate is always referred to the per capita birth, that means per individual birth, but the individual is supposed to have just the birth. In the same manner, population has death rate, that is again the per capita or per individual, but individual will have only death. And in the same manner, individuals have a particular age, but population will carry age groups which are called as ecological age groups. So we learned in the last class regarding the graphical representation of the age groups in the population, which is called as age pyramid. We learned that the graphic representation of different age groups found in the population is called as the age pyramid. We learned in the last class that if the age distribution in which the male and female are considered together is plotted for population, the resulting structure developed is called as the age pyramid. And in the human population, whenever age pyramids are made, generally it includes the individuals of similar age, whether it is male or female together. And we learned that the shape of this pyramid reflects a lot about the growth status of the population. We learned in the last class that if the shape of the age pyramid is triangular, that means the population is showing a positive growth. Example, we learned India as well as Brazil. If the shape of the age pyramid gives a bell-shaped type of structure, that means the number of pre-reproductive and reproductive are almost similar, less difference is there. In the case of triangular, the pre-reproductive are more. So we learned in the last class such a type of population shows nearly zero growth and is called as the stable population. For example, the USA, we have the example of Denmark as well as China. And then we have the declining population in which the number of pre-reproductive individuals are lesser compared to the reproductive one. So in the future years to come, this population is going to show negative growth, and such an example is Japan, and the shape of this type of pyramid is called as the urn shape. We learned In the last class, even regarding the population size, we learned that population size depends upon natality, that is the birth rate, mortality, the death rate, even the carrying capacity, which we will be learning in today's class, and then competition, predation and parasitism, because competition will have a negative effect, predation will have a negative effect, and parasitism will have negative effect on the population size. We learned that population density designated as N is the number of individuals present for a particular species per space, and sometimes we learned that it is not possible to do the counting. So we all know that the counting the individual is the best method. Counting the individual is the best method, appropriate method to understand the population growth or population density, but at times it becomes impossible, it becomes meaningless to perform such type of activity. For example, counting the number of microorganisms is impossible, counting the fish swimming in the pond is impossible. So in such cases, we use indirect method of the understanding of the population growth, because we are not concerned with the numbers, we are concerned whether the health of the population is good or bad. If the population is healthy, then the numbers are supposed to increase. So we learned that in the case of tiger, census, pug marks and fecal pellets are used. In the case of fish, the average kilogram or average number of fish caught in the trap is taken as the indirect method. And microbes, when we talk about microorganism, the colony size and colony numbers in the petri dish culture plates is called as the indirect method of measuring the health of the population or the population density. And sometimes we also learn that biomass is more important compared to the numbers. For example, in a forest, a big banyan tree plays more ecological role compared to 200 Parthenium plants.